Hello, everyone. Welcome back to, I think that they're coming up on 6 or 7 of these live streams at this point, and it's been quite a wild ride as kind of watching how development of Flight Simulator 2020 has been going so far. We've had some really, really cool patches come out in the last few months. Some of them have solved some of the performance issues we're having. Some of them, of course, have brought in some new elements. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit more old school. As you've probably been noticing with my channel in the last few weeks, we've been concentrating pretty hardcore on kind of navigation, and last week we did some stuff on Dead Reckoning. Next week, you're going to see some stuff on IFR flying as well. I thought to kind of bring it all together, we do a nice and challenging, what I like to consider kind of an old school general aviation sort of VFR experience. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and we're going to take off from this beautiful, beautiful little teeny tiny grass airport. Let's go ahead and get our handy dandy little stuff that we have as far as navigation goes. There we are. So we're going to go ahead and take off from this beautiful place, which isn't even marked on SkyVector. We're basically going to be using VFR navigation to take us all the way through this crazy selection of odd islands to this really, really, really difficult to spot northwest runway. When we get there, we're going to attempt to locate at this beautiful airport over here. This is Kiwi. This is, of course, Wicasset. And once we get there, we're going to be taking a right turn and basically landing in somebody's backyard. Now, when we're going to do this, of course, we're going to pass one of the very, very, very famous landmarks of Maine, which happens to be Pembroke Point, which is right down here in the end. We're going to make sure we stop by there and kind of our approach here. To make things kind of interesting for us, we've gone ahead and cranked up the wind, not to 11, but to 30, which is in some ways a lot worse from 11. So for those of you at home who would like to go ahead and kind of recreate our weather conditions, this is what we have right now. So if I go down to my wind layer, you can see my wind is 230 at 25 knots. I didn't want to make this easy. I've also got a little bit of turbulence. My cloud layers, fortunately, are up high enough that I don't think they're going to cause that much trouble for us tonight. Again, we're kind of at a weird time. Blame it on daylight savings time. I think you guys are going to enjoy that part. So anyway, VFR. So what we're going to do is before we get going, I'm going to go ahead and make sure my flight plan is in really, really good shape here. One thing I cannot stand is not having some sort of a plan. So what I've done is I've already pre-calculated everything I could possibly need to do. Some people were complaining I didn't zoom in enough. Boom! Now we got some zoom. Basically, we're going to take off from Cusco here. We're going to go to the top of a climb. It's only going up to 3,500 feet. If we go any higher, that wind is going to wreck us. We're going to have to maintain a compass heading of 54 degrees, which is going to be very challenging in a non-GPS aircraft. We're going to be doing that for just about 3 minutes. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go from the top of the climb. We're going to be looking for basically a northeast-southwest kind of runway that's going to be on our left. That's Maine 33. We're going to proceed at 55 degrees. Once we get there, the wind is really going to get interesting. We're going to start our descent down to 6-7 and then take a right turn down to 1-4-3. I've got my stopwatch on my left here, so I'm ready to go. So I don't know if you folks are also going to be ready to go, but for those of you at home, basically know that we did all this in a video earlier this week. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and head over to the simulator and get this row on a show, so to speak. All right. So first things first, we're in a Savage Cub today. I wanted something a little bit smaller, and I wanted something with no digital technology at all, except for the radio. So this thing's great. You literally basically just flip the thing on, turn on our ignition switches, flick on the strobe light, and basically sit there and crank the thing. There's really not a lot to getting this thing started, which I think is absolutely great about it. You know, I love these old school manual airplanes. This particular one is powered by one of those Rotax engines, which doesn't make it terribly powerful, but it will get us up to just about 100 knots or so as far as our actual cruise speed goes. So once we take off, I'm just taking a look at my notes one more time. You can't see me. We're going to want a compass heading of 54 degrees pretty much until we get a pretty good sight of some of the other places to our north there. So I'm going to go ahead and check my notes, and let's go ahead and do it to it. Now, this is a soft field takeoff. The great thing, though, is since we are in a tail dragger aircraft, we don't have to worry about smacking that propeller on the ground unless we go jamming on the brakes much, 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 much too hard. I'm going to go ahead and bring myself over here now. I can see we've got quite a bit of company tonight. I'm so glad that everybody can make it. Again, when I do these things, it makes it worth it when I see this many folks who are willing to come out and come fly with us. I think that's absolutely great. Oh man, you're going to be a little slow tonight. And I did disable generic aircraft to make things a little bit better for us. So for folks taking off on this runway, make sure you use short field technique if you do not have a tail wheel behind you. Otherwise, after taking off, we're going to do a big old donut and we're going to bring ourselves around to 54 degrees. All right, let's do it to it. Stopwatch started. I love this thing. You just give it a little bit of gas, you lift up the nose, and we're airborne. Love that. So this particular aircraft is absolutely great for short fields. We're not going to need it because when we finally do get to our destination at Ruby Airport, oh man, look at how rough the ocean is tonight. Oh, I love it. Absolutely, absolutely love it. For those of you who like to recreate this experiment at home, you're going to want winds at 230 at 25 knots. So again, for folks who are just joining us, I'll go ahead and pop that up real quick in case anybody's curious about our details. And we took off right on time. Love it. All right, there is our ridiculous turbulence. Oh, this is going to be a fun flight tonight. All right, let's go ahead and bring ourselves over to 54 degrees. Climb speed in this particular aircraft is going to be right around 72 knots. Of course, we're in kilometers per hour because this is a European design. Kilometer per hour, by the way, is a great unit of measurement, with the exception that, unfortunately, where I live, we don't get to see it very often. I think I'm actually going to tone down that turbulence just a little bit. I think it's just a little too extreme. It's going to give some of the people watching this on a cell phone a little bit too much of a headache. Now, let's go ahead and bring this down just a little bit. I set that to 0. Whoa! Close enough. All right, let's do it to it. All right, so our initial heading is going to be 54 degrees. We are currently at about 40 degrees, so we need to come very, very, very gently to our right. But before I do that, I do want to take a look out the back window and just kind of take one last look at everything. You can see everybody's sitting there. You notice their navigation lights are going to be lighting things up. This guy literally has his own private airport. I think that's so wild that you can have a situation like that. All right, we're heading closer towards 30. I'm going to go ahead and swing us over to the right. And we're going to try to locate our first couple of our waypoints right away. Now, this aircraft was not really intended for precision operations. The whole idea is that you're going to be doing some VFR, even less than that, some kind of pilotage work. So we're going to do the best we can to try to get this thing nice and centered and actually do it to it. All right, settle that weather down just a tiny bit. Maybe if I increase the frequency a little bit, it'll give me a little break once in a while. There we go. Okay, so that's about 54 degrees right now. Obviously, the turbulence is bouncing us around really, really nice right now, which makes things a little exciting. But again, we don't want to make it too easy for us. Go ahead and look out the window. Our first waypoint is going to be basically right to the right of that teeny tiny little island that I see right here. Because the wind is so incredibly strong right now, in order to get to that island, I'm actually going to point myself slightly to the left of it and basically let the wind carry me over to it. All right, we're climbing up to 3,500 feet. Go ahead and take a look, see how things are going. Things look like they're going pretty well so far. I don't see too many anomalies. Again, I'm looking at my stopwatch. We're at 2 minutes and 54 seconds so far. We're expecting to get to our top of our climb at 3 minutes and 13 seconds. So I think we're actually going to be almost perfect as far as our initial leg goes. So this is actually really good news for us, despite getting bounced around so bad here. Now, in the real world, of course, I have to comment that I've never seen visibility this good except for the dead of the craziest parts of the winter. You just don't get things that are this nice. All right, let's go ahead and stick my head back down and pop it up. Now, this is a Rotax engine. Now, these engines have a very, very unique disclaimer on them that basically tells you that you can't expect them to be reliable. I just find that kind of interesting. Folks who are using any sort of aircraft that has a high, I should say, a very, very low maneuvering speed, you have to be tremendously careful in this kind of wind because one gust will snap your wings off in the real world. All right, looking pretty good so far. I'm going to look at my back here. Remember, holding about 54 degrees until we get to that first waypoint, and then we're going to start bringing ourselves back around to the other one. All right, losing a little bit of altitude here, but that's not too bad. One of the things I always have trouble with this aircraft is just getting just the right spot. All right, cruise RPM on this airplane is right around 4,500 RPM. You can certainly leave it at 5,000, but that's going to put us dangerously close to that red line, so we don't want to do that today. Normally, of course, you can go ahead and lean out the mixture, but as you can probably see, we don't have that feature on this aircraft. As a matter of fact, if you've seen our fuel gauge, it's that little knob right up here towards our right. A little different of an aircraft. All right, bring us to the right just a little bit. It's time to start doing the trim. Some people are asking some tips about trim. The big thing about trim is you want to make sure you have your power set before you start playing with it. In the real world, usually what you do is you push your control to exactly where you want it to be, and then you start applying trim until you don't have to push the control to keep it exactly at the correct height. That's really all there is to trim. There's not a lot of mystery. Unfortunately, in a flight simulator, you don't have that tactile sense unless you have a force feedback joystick. One of the tips I always like to do is I like to hold the trim just till I can start to feel it, and then I immediately give it a quick tap, couple taps up or a couple taps down, and that seems to do a pretty good job as far as stabilizing. All right, time to start looking out for our next waypoint. Now, as I was promising just a few minutes ago, we're going to be using those two large runways not too far from us as our primary waypoints. Coming up on our left here, you've got a Long Island, not that Long Island, that's that Long Island, not that Long Island. Up there on our right is, of course, the Great Chibog Island. Really, really cool. You can bring out your little power boat or something like that, do some skiing, stuff like that, fishing for folks who like that kind of a thing. Let's see here. Jonas has just asked a very interesting question about an MH60R. It's a mod. Jonas, I'm not 100% sure. Could you give me a few more details about that, and I'll be able to answer your question. Okay, let's continue. I'm sorry, get distracted. All right, taking a look at our flight plan now. For those of you who caught a good picture of that at the early, we should be crossing our next waypoint at 9 minutes and 13 seconds. Taking a look at my watch right now, I'm hitting 6 minutes. Now, this waypoint is going to be very difficult to see. And as a matter of fact, I'm just looking out the window. I know I'm way, way too far to the east now. I can tell because that waypoint, if you recall, is going to be right here on the edge of this island here. But you can see my nose, because of the crosswind, is dragging me over to the right. So I'm actually going to take myself very, very gently over this direction. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the traffic behind us is doing today. Looks like I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 aircraft behind us. Nice. Always great to have a solid crowd. Hopefully you folks back there are enjoying the turbulence. In the real world, by the way, I think I've only flown maybe 10% of the time where the turbulence wasn't significant. Because again, you're at such low altitude, every single parking lot on Earth is going to make you bounce around. All right, looking at my clock, we should be crossing that next waypoint in less than 3 minutes. Yeah, that's one thing I love about VFR. It's a very obvious runway. There it is, right there. Right where my mouse is. Got it. Sweet. Now, one of the things we did to actually experiment with this particular level when we were doing it earlier was actually going ahead and doing this under IFR conditions, but with VFR rules. Now, originally we were going to do something like that, but I figured that 30-knot crosswind and trying to figure out which one of these islands is the island you're looking for was going to be more than enough challenge for most folks. All right, we seem to be doing pretty well. Like I said, I still feel like we're a little bit east of our destination. We have about 2 minutes before we cross our next waypoint. RPM is almost perfect on the engine. Might have to give everybody a donut. Looks like we have a little bit of traffic. Everybody's kind of holding fairly steady there. Again, you give me reason to continue doing these things. Looking over there on my left, there's that waypoint. I think we're going to be a little bit late. So we're going a little slower than we had expected to go tonight, but that's not too bad. Taking a look real quick. All right, yeah, there it is. I definitely see the waypoint. We're actually supposed to be going directly over the center of it. So when we do cross that waypoint, I'm just taking a look real quick, we should be basically running right through this point, right where my mouse is. So we're actually not that far off. Now keep in mind, in the real world, we have airspaces to contend with. If you take a look right here, this is Brunswick Municipal Airport. That's the big flashy lighty one that's kind of over there on my left, kind of like my 11 o'clock. We're not going to be crossing the airspace, so you don't have to worry about that too much. Picking up a little bit of altitude, though, so we want to lose that smoothly. Yeah, like I said, we're still a little bit to the east here. Now, the interesting thing is we can actually spot where our next waypoint is going to be. Now, that is the ultimate in visual flying because you never can get lost if you always have something you can go back on. Let's take a look. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. I got a couple questions. Ellie says I left her in the dust. We'll go ahead and do a donut in a minute. Let's see here. I got a question from... Yeah, I'll do a donut just to give everybody a chance. I'll orbit my next waypoint and pause my timer. Jonas asks, am I familiar with the SH-60? I am familiar with the SH-60, actually. I haven't simulated it. I did play Dangerous Waters quite a bit back in my day. Obviously, I didn't fly the SH-60, but it's a pretty amazing helicopter. It's pretty heavy duty. Let's see here. Spectral L, you have to make sure, yep, you're in the USE server. Sometimes it refreshes. Folks, when we get to the next waypoint, I will be doing a quick 360 just to waste a little bit of time to let everybody get caught up. All right, where was I? Okay, so I'm at 9 minutes and 22 seconds. We're supposed to be crossing that waypoint at 9 minutes and 13 seconds. So we are definitely late. We're not badly late, though, because if I actually look out my window really carefully, see this runway right here? We're supposed to be crossing that 15 seconds ago. So we're actually doing pretty well, but the wind is definitely stronger than we expected it to. So once I get to my destination, I'm going to quickly just do a little circle and let everybody get kind of caught up. Hopefully everybody is enjoying the bounce. Room for some chop. You know exactly what that's like. Alright, come down a little bit here, letting this aircraft get a little high on me. One of the weird things about these old style aircraft is the way the center of gravity shifts so drastically. Alright, we're supposed to be crossing. I think we're just about ready to cross it. There it is right there. We're supposed to be doing that a minute ago. We're a complete minute late. All right, folks, behind me, I'm going to go ahead and do a nice little circle, just as a way to give everybody some time to catch up. This reminds me of learning how to spin the plane. Oh my god, I hated those days. That is not me. Just go kind of gently like this. Gonna go stare into the sun for just a half a second. Enjoying my little donut here. The greatest thing about planes like this is I can drop them down to, like, 45 knots. Do a complete circle. Oh, notice my lights automatically turn themselves on. Do myself a nice complete circle and then come right back around without basically getting any ground at all. One thing that's going to be tricky, though, is as I'm cutting across now, that crosswind is basically going to blast me right back off course again. All right, going to go ahead and bring us back around nice and gently. Elio Dare just mentions the fact she's using the weather power to catch up. I highly recommend assigning a key on your keyboard to speeding up time. It's one of the best things I've ever added for taxiing ever. I mean, I could go and zip away F16 speeds using that technique. Let's see if anybody else is say. Yeah, looks pretty good, looks pretty good. All right, we're going to go ahead and continue with our flight now. All right, that added about 2 minutes into our flight time, but I'm not too worried about that. All right, let's do it to it. Hopefully that gave everybody enough time to catch up to us. Back up to full speed. I love this plane. You just hit the gas and you're instantly doing cruise speed. There's so few planes that are that light that you can actually do that. I actually have a model airplane in my garage right now. It's this little electric doohickey. It doesn't even have ailerons. It only uses rudders to steer. It reminds me a lot of something like this. Okay, so on approach here, we have to keep in mind that the wind is coming from our back left corner. It's kind of coming from over there, kind of like a 7 o'clock sort of a thing. And because of that, that tells us that people landing at this airport are probably not going to be wanting to land in a crosswind that nasty. That being said, there are some pretty crazy pilots out there, myself included. Okay, so our next waypoint is going to be right here. This is, I like to call it Kiwi Wicasset. It's a pretty nice little spot. We're actually going to come and kind of swing by it. We're going to try to set ourselves up so that we can pretty much deal with this crosswind by having it kind of push us towards it. A real problem here with the wind is that when we turn right to come into our landing, that wind is going to be completely behind us, which is going to make things extremely fun for our landing later on. But this plane can travel so fast, I'm not worried even landing with it. Tailwind, basically. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the folks behind us, how everybody's doing today. I think everybody they got caught up. Hello, folks. Welcome, welcome. I wish I was a better line leader here. One of these days we'll have to do like a Vietnam thing where everybody joins up at one of the Thailand air bases, and we'll just do a takeoff and buzz Hanoi and kind of spin back and kind of do it the hard way. But that'll probably be for another day. Vietnam, by the way, is a wonderful place to fly. It's just so dense and so lush. It's really awesome. Well, let's take a look, see if we have any cool comments. Nice. Hopefully I answered Jonas's question. One of these days I got to do my best Wags from Eagle Dynamics thing. Well, everyone, one of those kind of things, but I can't do it. He's too good at it. All right, we're doing pretty good so far. Although one of these days I have to come up with a better screen name than the one I have right now, although I think I pretty much know what it's going to be. All right, it's starting to get a little dark. Now, what did they say? Pink at night is sailor's delight? I always forget. I'm sure somebody's going to remind me in the chat in a minute. All right, our next waypoint, fortunately, is flashing, so it makes it much simpler to find. One of the safest ways to find your way around is to just look for other airports. It works great, even if you're in the middle of nowhere. One of these days, we'll have to do something like in the middle of Russia or something like that, where it's very difficult to try to locate your way around. Okay, so our next waypoint, I'm taking a look at my flight plan real quick here. We should be hitting it at 18:19, but remember we're 2 minutes late, so we've got a good solid 6 minutes or so before we're actually going to be crossing that particular point. Now, one thing that we can do is, since we know that it took us an extra minute to get to the other spot, we can interpolate that as determining what our actual airspeed is. But personally, I think that was just incompetence and not so much the weather. In the real world, by the way, you take two different waypoints and measure the distance and time between them to figure out how fast you're going, and then work backwards to figure out what your wind speeds are. But I'm not going to do that today. That is for a very advanced tutorial a little later on for folks who are really kind of hardcore. Let's see how everybody's doing behind us. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far. Okay, so it's a pretty quiet night, but that's all right. So you got my little headlamp going there. I think I'm drifting east again, but again, that wind is tremendously strong. Now, the interesting thing is, in the real world, airplanes generally kind of groove out. You know, once you've got them pretty trimmed, they tend to stay trimmed for really long periods of time. Like, you're not really going to gain or lose altitude once the plane finds its happy place. Now, the interesting thing is with helicopters, it is a slightly different beast. And hopefully we get helicopters to go ahead and try them out. Let's see here. Somebody's asking me about the periscope radar on helicopters. I'm familiar with the general operation of a radar. I've never operated one personally in the real world. Raleigh Mal is asking us, what airport are we near right now? We just are about to get to Wakasit, which is Kilo India Whiskey India, in case you want to join us at that point. Because we're going to hit that spot, then we're going to take a right and go ahead and put this thing gently down on the ground. Well, gently is a relative term. Wait until you see how small this runway is going to be. Go ahead and take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is great. Form trail. Yeah, actually, when I first did this one, DJ Sketch is pointing out how difficult it is to catch up with the propeller. When we first was practicing this one, I actually did this in the Cessna 208. And one of the interesting things with the 208 was because of the thrust reverser, you could actually stop in time. When I attempted to do it without the thrust reverser, that wasn't pleasant. I also tested this one out in the Cessna 152, and the Cessna 152 was great. And then I tried it on the Icon A5, which I'm not a big fan of that one. But one of these days we'll have to do an all-water flight around like Seattle or something like that. Give myself a minute to relax. We're about to our next waypoint. See, folks have caught up to me quite nicely despite my awful efforts otherwise. At least I make a relatively easy target to follow. I'm at 17:14 on my timer. We're supposed to be crossing that next waypoint at 20 minutes, which means we actually made up a little bit of time, which is pretty good. All right, folks, for everybody who's about to cross that waypoint straight ahead, remember you're going to want to descend at 500 feet per minute. Your new heading is going to bring you to 1-4 tree. Again, that's assuming that you're flying the same plane also at 96 knots as I am. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind as well. All right, there's our next waypoint. Look at that speedometer jump. Love it. And yes, I do fly with damage turned on, so I actually have to be careful. All right, studying the ground. I'm expecting being shifted slightly to the left here, but I'm really not seeing that strong. It's more of a tailwind than it is anything. Of course, now it's starting to get very, very dark, which is intentional, but it's still kind of scary. Imagine flying at night. All you'd see is the roads and the runways. All right, my estimate puts us at 20 minutes. And by the way, if you ever to get a private pilot license in the United States, you have to be plus or minus 5 minutes at 50 nautical miles. So I'm within basically 30 seconds, so I'm not complaining too much. Granted, our total flight distance today is about 46 nautical miles. Again, I would be quickly identifying that airport below me. Go ahead, in the real world, we'll go get our binoculars. Yeah, that's definitely it. There's actually another airport that we would have used that was actually up here on the left, but it was not present in this build of Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is kind of a bummer, but, you know, we'll deal kind of a thing. All right, I've got a minute and 15 seconds to get to the center of that runway. I think I'm going to be about 10 seconds late. Again, one of the great advantages of using Dead Reckoning is you always know when to look for things. You know, you can constantly look for them, but you also know generally what time you need to start looking for them. Ooh, Microsoft just did a little updatey thing. Hopefully that wasn't bad news. Everybody's looking pretty good. Imagine trying to do this in like a VL5 or something. Actually, you probably could do this in the VL5. That thing's fast enough. Or do it like the Pipstrel virus or something like that. That'd be crazy. All right, folks, stand by for the turn. Stand by. Of course, you have a 30-second delay from when I talk to you actually see it. So kind of keep that in the back of your head as well. All right, once you do cross the center of this runway, you're going to immediately start descending. You want to get, like I said, about 500 feet per minute. Again, my heading is going to be 143 degrees. Your heading is going to be similar depending on if you're trying to keep up with me or not. Woo, look at that speedometer go. In the real world, by the way, when you sit in this plane, this is where you sit. You don't sit down here. I'm just looking down. We should be crossing that in 15 seconds. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Oh, it's going to be close, but I don't think it's going to be close enough. The weather is never what you expect it to be. Although I gotta admit, I really do enjoy this kind of flying because there's no autopilot, there's no electronics. You know, when you get out of this plane, you're thoroughly tired from trying to keep this plane steady. All right, looking pretty good. Looks like it's going to be closer to 30 seconds late. Oh, somebody just joined us. Right there. Nice. All right, folks, stand by to turn. Stand by to turn. All right, and taking a look out the window. Whoops. Hey, you don't want to push that button. Let's go take a look at how things are going in comments. Let me see here. Having an issue. Microsoft Flight Simulator. Synthetic aperture radar. Jonas, you're asking a very difficult question for somebody who does not know much about that. I know how to check it. If you want to remind me when we're done this live stream, I got a great way to do it. But yeah, do it. Eric is asking, why is my speed all over the place? So the trick here is you take the average. I know that sounds like it's like lazy or whatever, but it's actually completely true. Basically, what you're trying to do is see where the needle kind of settles in the middle. Like in this case, I can say my needle keeps settling right around 172 knots. I also know, based on this power setting at this temperature, at this altitude, you tend to always get that true airspeed anyway. All right, folks, now we're going to get to the fun part. Everybody, please start descending. You want to do about 500 feet per minute down. For me, I'm going to go ahead and reduce throttle significantly because it's going to get extremely bouncy extremely quickly. I'm just going to take a look at this. That was Kiwi below me, Dusty923. Yeah. My speed's acting like that because it's getting hit with 25 knots of wind, and then it's getting hit with 50 knots of wind. Because it's an airspeed instrument, it detects whatever the airspeed is, regardless of what my actual ground speed is. Let's see here if anybody's asking any questions. Okay, that's good. That's Kiwi below me. I'm just making sure I'm up to date here. Jonas asked that question. Like I said, bother me after we've landed and done our little bits towards the end, and I'll be able to give you a better answer using software that I can actually simulate that for you. If I had to guess, in clutter, no, you could never pick up a person. All right, looking good. We want to be doing about 500 feet per minute downwards. I feel really sorry for the people who are going to have to land this. It's going to be kind of tough. Oh, man. Landing light on. This is going to be nuts. I've got 22 minutes and 20 seconds. Okay, so here's the great thing about this. There's this great little teeny tiny peninsula right here that's right next to this peninsula. I need to be going through the center of this peninsula, and then I need to be kind of going around this corner and hitting this right here. This is, I think it's like Maine route 130, 120, 132, something like that. And basically, we're going to follow this right down here. After we land, of course, we're going to go visit Pemaquid Point, which is a very, very famous lighthouse for Maine. I don't think we're going to see anything when we get there, but you never know. You never know. All right, let's continue downward. Dennis asks, why doesn't my throttle reduce to the end? I'm not sure what you actually mean by that. Like, for me, if I just pull the throttle all the way back, the engine starts slowing down. It doesn't mean the engine's going to stop. It just means it's going to slow down. Now, some aircraft have feathering props that you could actually go ahead and disable the thing completely and then go ahead and try to set it down that way. Wow. I didn't see that. Hang on, print screen. Thank you, guys. You just got us our image for tonight. East USA server, correct, Dusty. And we'll do an Encore, as we always do, and I think it's going to be kind of dangerous because we're going to be landing on a lighthouse. But that's okay, because it's after 5 o'clock, and they don't charge you to park. Otherwise, it's like, I think like $2.50 or $3 or something like that. What exactly works out to be. Okay, let's start thinking about landing. Now you're really going to be feeling the pressure from that wind. Go ahead and look out the window real quick. Okay, so we're landing right here. So that's going to be very interesting. I'm a little high in the airspeed here. I need to start slowing down. Oh, boy. Now, just for the record, this is kind of a fun place. They call this the vacation state, for those of you who are not familiar with Maine. One of the things I always get kicked out of is the fact that they have some of like the greatest breakfast places ever around here. Like there's one I know, I think it's called like, what the hell is it? It's, I think it's like Dots, but basically it's somebody's living room and like the granddaughter comes out and serves you and everything like that. It's like the most wild experience that I probably ever had for breakfast, to say the least. Of course, I've had some very fun things for breakfast, but that's for another day. All right, somebody is asking a question. Let's see here. Dennis is asking, how do you get the outside view with all the systems showing? Oh, that's an easy one. Dennis, if you press the escape key, and then you go up to general, and then you go down to camera. At the bottom of camera, there's an option that allows you to enable and disable instruments. I'm not going to do it because everybody's about to rear end me every time I pause like that. See what I mean? right, let's get ready for our landing. Oh boy. Everybody ready? I feel like I have to do like the data link thing on the F-16. I have to cross the runway, go boop boop, and then submit my position to everybody so that they can use it as a point of references on their... Oh wait, they don't have flight computers, do they? Oh well, I guess we're gonna have to do this the hard way. Okay, see the runway? Right there. I'm just glad that I got a landing light in this thing. Granted, it's the world's smallest landing light, but we'll deal. I feel sorry for folks who've never tried to land here before, because it's not a very big runway. Now, keep in mind, our wind is going to be coming from over here, so when we land, it is going to be pushing us insanely over to the side, which just makes this fun, you know what I mean? I'm going to start swinging myself downwards here. All right, let's do it. I got to do my little wind wag to warn everybody behind me. All right, let's do it. The airport I took off from was actually Cusco, Kilo Sierra Charlie uniform, but Kiwi is the closest airport to us. All right, let's do it to it. Do you see it? It's right there. Good luck, everybody. All right, here we go. I actually know exactly where this place is. All right, look at how strong that wind is. Flaps down. Everybody's sitting there going, can he do it? I just got past. Oh, that crosswind is intense. This is awesome. I love this. The plane is like flying sideways. Oh, I love landings like this. It just makes you feel alive. It's real fun to try this on an aircraft carrier too, I gotta admit. All right, he's just going for it. Oh, is that somebody's car? Yep. All right, here we go. I am doing a crosswind landing on a non-lit airfield. This is gonna be awesome. I don't know how it is for you folks at home, but this is actually kind of scary. Oh, getting past again. This is such a strong wind. This is great. Good luck, everybody. That is an insane crosswind. Usually what you do in winds like this is you'll actually go ahead and bring the flaps up a little bit in order to reduce this a little bit. Here we go. All right, we're going to try to gently plant this, a little bit more power. Oh, oh God. Oh, sorry, wheels. Hey, we did it. Oh, yes. Yeah, got it. To change the server, whoa, just got rear-ended. To change your server, you just tap the escape key and click up where it has your name, and then you can just change your server right there. Wow, that was amazing. Oh, that was amazing. I always pick the worst places. Dennis asks if there is a Dash 8. I haven't seen a Dash 8 yet. It's a great plane. There's an excellent one over in X-Plane. It's one of my kind of like VR ones because the cockpit up at the front of it is so tiny. So as always, we like to do an Encore, of course, with a wind like this. I mean, that was the Encore. I think that did a pretty good job here. We're now going to do something extremely dangerous. We're going to try to go ahead and land this aircraft right where the lighthouse is. Fortunately for us, I'm not going to worry about it too much because, whoa, plane wants to push down. Oh my gosh, slow down, slow down. No, 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 no. And that is a reminder that when you do go ahead and fly an aircraft that happens to be on a hill, you want to use every caution to make sure you don't do a face plant on said hill. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and exit back to the menu. I'll bring us back over to Maine, bring up the weather so that it looks a little bit nicer, and we'll go ahead and do our little Encore piece there. Hang on just a second. All right, ready to fly. I'll press the escape key, go back to the main menu. This will only take just a moment. Fortunately, I have a relatively fast computer. This is a great time to answer any questions. Does anybody have any questions? I'll be, like I said, I'll be over there in just a second. Let's go ahead and grab an 18ME. That's Ruby Bristol. Set the weather to something a little bit more pleasant. Regular weather, sounds good to me. Go back, clear skies, close, and fly. I'm coming back, I'm coming back. Our flight, by the way, was supposed to take 30 minutes. It ended up taking basically 30 minutes. Inverse synthetic aperture radar in command modern iron operations. I'll be right back. Don't worry. Okay, now I'm back. I told you I'd come back. Let's go ahead and set the time of day so we can actually see. There we go. I'm going to give everybody a moment to get caught up for a second. Okay, looks good, looks good. Let's see here. Jonas is asking about synthetic aperture radar. Basically, any type of radar is simulated in command. And I can, like I said, I can go do that for you in just a minute. Okay, let's go ahead and do our Encore. Again, you have a 30-second delay, so we won't be able to see this. I'm at Maine 18 ME18. It's also known as Ruby Airport. I'm sorry, 18 Mike Echo. It's Ruby Airports. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do an Encore. Encore at ME18. Let me just confirm my numbers real quick. I don't want to do 18 MA, sorry. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and do our little Encore here. Of course, I turned up the light a little bit. You can see everybody being ridiculous, as you guys always are. Looking pretty good, looking pretty good. Gonna go get started nice and queued up. Man, I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, let's get all lined up. So I have no idea how successful we're gonna be here because of the fact we're gonna be landing at something that's not actually a runway. So it's going to be very interesting to kind of see how that plays out. But like I said, we'll kind of see what happens here. All right, ready everybody? Here we go. Oh man, this is gonna be interesting. It's the voice of our people. All right, looking pretty good, looking pretty good. All right, this is going to be dangerous. Very, very, very dangerous. All right, here we go. I am kind of disappointed. Usually I crash the plane. I mean, I crash the plane, obviously. But usually it's me intentionally crashing the plane, not ground looping it. It does kind of help when you have a 25-knot wind in your tail dragger and you're going downhill and it's nighttime. But those kind of things do happen from time to time. Okay, so now we're going to go see one of my favorite little kind of places to visit whenever I come out to this sort of place. Like I said, it's Pemaquid Point. It's this little tiny lighthouse. You got to pay like $2.50 to drive up. Unless you come here after 5 o'clock at night, in which case you can kind of just cruise by. So what we're going to try to do is land the plane sideways on the cliff directly next to the actual location. So what I'm going to do is do some reckless flying here. Those of you who like to vacation in this area, there's a really neat lobster place right here, like I kid you not. And you can see where everybody's little lobster boat is. It's neat when the tide goes down, everybody's boat actually sits in mud. It's kind of wild to watch. This is really nice without the wind and the good visibility. I'd like this. I can fly like this all the time. All right, we got all sorts of folks coming up on us right now. We'll see exactly how this goes. And keeping an eye on things, Danny's asking when is the next update. If you actually go on the website, I think it's the forum, they have like a bug tracker, and it kind of lists when all the major updates are going to be. Dusty923 asks about traffic. The thing you got to watch out for traffic is you got to remember that you have to set it to all players. Some people actually have all players set, but they forget to enable multiplayer options inside of the regular options. If you skip that step, you're going to have a couple issues here. All right, this weather never looks as good in Maine ever. I'm kind of disappointed there's nobody in like a little sailboat or anything like that. Okay, time for some reckless flying. Of course, I already killed myself once tonight, so I guess, there's always good time for some more. Let's see here. What I'm really missing in Flight Simulator right now is I really want the VR. And then the other piece I'd really, really like to see are helicopters. Helicopters are just, they're amazing. It's like, especially VR plus helicopters, it's like the most wonderful thing ever. Okay, let's see if we can do this. So there is no runway here, so we're going to have to find a spot to land. And to be honest, that looks like a pretty good spot right there. I just don't know how on earth I'm supposed to safely land on it. Well, we'll find out when we get there. All right, watching it closely. So our VFR flight was pretty good, minus that suicidal landing, but, stuff happens. These are some very expensive houses. I mean, look at your lookout. That's great. That's East USA as our server. Right there. Okay. So there should be a lighthouse on my right. Like if you ever look at the Maine postcards, this is always what you see with the postcards. And I'm seeing the rocky nastiness, but I'm definitely not seeing a lighthouse. That's a little disappointing. It'd be right here. Like, do you see where that parking lot is right there? Right there? That's where it would be. So, again, you can see that that's exactly where that would be. You come up there, kind of enjoy your lobster, stuff like that. All right, let's try to land. Dusty923 is asking that why you can't see anybody. One of the problems they have with the servers is it only lets you load a certain number of players at one time. So if you exceed that number, it doesn't work very well. Hey, it's a short field landing. Give me a break. Yeah, I'm liking that road pretty good. That's not great, but let's go ahead and see if we can set this thing down on... Literally, if we tried this in the real world, we would explode. Like, we wouldn't even, like, crash. It would just be boom. All right, nice little beach landing here. Whoop. Gotcha. That was dangerous. Okay, this time I'm going to stop. All right, I'll see if anybody else can do it. Now that's what they call bush flying. All right, we'll see if there's any good questions for the order before we kind of call it a night here. Looking up there real fast. Seeing real fast. Let's see here. Updates for Flight Simulator. We mentioned that. Traffic. Traffic is extremely wonky, as you're probably familiar with. And nobody else has got things else. Okay. So I always like to do a little bit of Q&A at the end. You guys have any specific requests for any future videos? Next week, we're going to be seeing some stuff about the IFR. I've also got a video explaining how to fly the 747, which I'm sure a few people are going to be excited about. That took me some time to do, unfortunately. The 787 doesn't run well for me, so I kind of actually skipped that. So is there any more videos that any folks are interested in seeing? Is that what I think it is? I love that. Nicely done. I'm looking around. Oh, somebody got an icon. Brilliant. I think for our next live stream, we're going to have to do all icons. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, Coda asks, what is my first flight sim? Okay, so not to date myself or anything, but my first flight sim was on a TRS-80. It was what they call Falcon F4. I'm sorry, P-51 Mustang is what it was called. And you needed two joysticks. One joystick was the one that gave you thrust. The other one was a little joystick for control. But me being like a 5 or 6-year-old, didn't really know what I was doing. So literally, I just flew circles over it. That's not going to end well. Enjoy the water. Again, I would just sit there and do circles in the air over and over and over and over and over and over again until like a random plane would show up, and then I'd waste all my ammo at stupidly long range. Again, you know, stupid kid myself. But that was the first one. The other big one that was a lot of fun for me, of course, was I loved Falcon 3, but trying to get that game to boot up properly in DOS, using like a DOS disk and everything like that with the boot disk, trying to get the XMS and yes, all the different types of memories. Such a nightmare. Like, it was crazy. But I did get it to work, and I really, really enjoyed it. So if we were doing this as combat stuff, you'd be seeing me in an F-16 because I've been flying that thing forever. I don't know how he did that, but I'm just going to kind of accept that. Is there any other videos that folks are looking for as far as content goes? Because I'll be done with my little flight sim series going forward. Obviously, I'll do more stuff with the actual... what do I want to call it? The individual airplanes. Like, I think this one can use a video, and obviously, you know, the citation, the longitude, and all that stuff. VFR in specific coordinates. There lets you do bush missions. That's cool. I'm not dating myself, man. I've been playing games forever. Thanks, Em. I appreciate that. You know, I've been flying in the real world. I've been flying in simulators for a very long time. So some of the stuff that I do automatically, you know, I don't even realize I'm doing it, kind of a thing. See, I love the picture with the icon. I think next time everybody's going to get an icon A5, and we're just going to, like, go find Niagara Falls or something stupid like that. Yeah, I also like the Caribbean. I also like, you know, one of my favorite ones is Indonesia. There's some beautiful, beautiful. It's just like, it's crazy. It's an archipelago with so many little islands. Vietnam and also off the coast of China has got some great places like that. All right, let's see here. I used to try in the sun. Oh, I used to love doing that. So there's another flight simulator called Orbiter, which allows you to simulate space flight in real time. Definitely check that out. It's free. And you want to talk about tutorial videos for that. Oh my God, that's challenging. Any other videos anybody would like to see? Should probably start shutting my plane down. Sky173 asked me how often do I fly online. I'm always actually online. Like, I always have the setting just set. I'm just here. I'm kind of an evening guy. You know, I teach high school, so obviously my weeks are kind of busy. The weekends are kind of when things kind of happen. All right, I'm going to do one of these things because, you know, you can't end these videos successfully. Always look out the window when you do this and push it over. Whee! Usually the thing starts buffeting uncontrollably. Yeah, if you have any suggestions for any of the streams, that'd be perfectly fine too. We could do something like that. Like I said, I'm liking the Niagara Falls using Icon A5s. I think we're definitely going to have to do that. And obviously when we get over to Christmas holiday, I have a good chunk of time off so I can start playing with it. All right, let's do some wind-up terms and take up the wings. Oh, I'm really disappointed. That plane should have snapped right off. If I do one of these, cross control. It doesn't like me. Nope. Going in! Okay, so maybe we can do Victoria Falls instead of Niagara Falls then. Gotcha. Okay, I'll let you know, but again, about 2 weeks away. All right, folks, if there's nothing else that's pressing, again, feel free to make a couple of comments in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream now. Other than that, have a great night, and we'll probably see you again really soon.